Hi everyone, you're welcome back to my channel. I am Luch K Styles. In case this is your first time of coming across my channel, thank you so much for stopping right here on my space today. So today's tutorial is centrally going to be on how to draft a perfect pencil skirt with a front or side zipper. So one thing I love about the fixing of this zip is that you determine by yourself the length of your slit. So this can actually serve as a slit and also your zipper. So in some occasions you would like your slit to be very high, and in some occasions you want it to be properly covered. So in this particular skirt I made right here, you can determine how high or how decent you want your slit to be. So I also shared how to fix this perfect band you see right here, and also how to achieve a perfect butt curve on your skirt pattern. So without much ado, I'm just going to get started with today's tutorial. A heart speed. So right here are the materials I'll be working with in the making of this particular skirt. I have my lining piece, and you can see I have this my long zipper, which is white and black, and it is called invisible open big head. So I don't know what to call yours. And here my Ankara piece, I have about 2.5 yards of this, though I didn't end up using everything, but I used almost 2.5 yards. So I went ahead now to fold this my Ankara piece into two. It must not be an Ankara fabric, you can use any fabric of your choice, right? So now from the top of my fabric, I'm going to measure about 3/4 of an inch, and I marked that into a straight line. So all my measurements are going to be starting from exactly that point or that line I marked right there. So from the folded edge of my fabric, I'm going to start by marking 1 inch all the way from the top to the full to the length of this my skirt actually. So after that, I also use this my ruler to connect all those points I made into a straight line. So for this particular skirt, I'm going to be adding a band of 1.5 inches to it, right? So meaning that every measurement, all the vertical measurements that I'm going to be taking right here, I'm going to subtract 1.5 inches. Okay, so you can see right here I placed 1.5 inches above on that line right there, and I'm going to get my hip length of 9 inches. Okay, so I marked it right there, and I'm going to use my straight ruler to connect it into a straight line. So the next I'm going to get is actually my knee line, also placing the 1.5 inches above from that line I made at the top of my fabric, right? So I'll also get my knee length of 18 inches. I'll connect that into a straight line. So the next I'm going to get is the skirt length. So I have 29 inches right here plus 1 inch, which is going to serve as the hemming allowance. So I'll also connect that into a straight line. So after doing that right now, I'm going to go ahead now to start dividing all my radius on my circumference. So for my waist, I divided my waist into 4, and I marked what I got right there on that first line, which is my waistline. Then on this second line, which is my hip line, I divided my hip circumference by 4, and what I got right there, I'll go ahead and make a point there. So here now we're going to achieve our pencil effect. So how do I go about this? I normally mark my waist divided by 4. So you can see that I measured out what I had on my waist, which is on that first line, which is 7 3/4. I went ahead to mark it on my knee line, and I'll also repeat the same thing on my full skirt length. So that's actually how I go about my own pencil skirt. Okay, so some actually subtract 6 inches or 5 inches from their hip circumference, but I just measure my waist divided by 4 and mark what I have right there on my knee line. So the next thing is to connect all of this from my waist to my hip line, from my hip line to my knee line, and exactly what I have on my knee line, I'll just extend it all the way to my skirt length. So please do pay proper attention to how I am placing my ruler to connect all of these points. Okay, so after doing this now, I went ahead to blend out that pointy edge on my knee line. So I'm going to take my dart at this point. So I'm going to divide my nipple to nipple point into 2, which is 3.5 inches, and you watch properly that all of these measurements I'm imputing right here is from this 1 inch line I already marked. So I marked my 3.5 inches from that line, and I came down from that line as well by 4 inches. So I'll connect this point to get to the 4 inches line, and on the both sides on this straight line I created right now, I'll come out by 1/2 an inch at both sides, and I'm going to slightly connect this way. So here is for the creation of my dart. So the next thing I'm going to do is to extend that 4 inches line so that I know that that is exactly where my dart line stopped. So I'm going to replace this dart of 1 inch which I created here already, and I always replace my dart from the exact point it was taken. So I'll make sure that it stops exactly on that my dart line, as you can see right here. So the next I'm going to do is to put my 1 inch, which is going to be for my sewing or joining allowance. So you can see this, and I went ahead to connect this all the way to the end with my free hand. But if you are not really good at using your free hand, go on ahead to use your ruler. So after that, just go ahead and cut out this exactly the way it was drafted, just as I'm doing right here, and also bring your darts area and also notch the center. So I'm going to draft out for the back part of this my skirt, and you can actually fold this into 4 and just cut it out at once instead of going through the stress of cutting this out twice, which I would have done, because the same zip allowance I gave for this my front piece is the same with the back. So I went ahead to trace out everything the same way. So if not for this 1 inch in front of at the front part of my skirt, I wouldn't have actually traced it out exactly the same. So now after tracing it out, I removed one piece because I'm going to be working with this one. I have chalk marks on to get my butt curve. So from the top of my line, from there I went ahead to mark 5 inches, and from these 5 inches I marked, I came down again by 8 inches. So I am going to mark half of an inch on that 8 inches point I made right there, which you can see. So I'm going to use my curve rule now and connect, placing my curve rule like this. I'm going to connect from the top of my fabric to these 5 inches which I marked earlier. So after that, I'm going to turn my ruler around this way, and I'm going to make a curve from that 5 inches to this half of an inch I came in by on my 8 inches line. So watch properly everything I'm doing right here. I believe that everything is self-explanatory and it's not meant to be confusing, right? So I went ahead now to cut this out exactly the way I already drafted this on my fabric. So you can see this is what I have. So I went ahead to trim off the other part slightly because this is meant to be curved, okay? So I'm going to get the other side, which is going to be my front skirt, and I'm going to be working on that right now in order for me to divide it and get the placement of my front zipper. So right now I went ahead to spread it out open, and I'm going to measure my waist circumference, everything I have right there on my front waist, which is 22 inches. So I'm going ahead now to divide it into 3 portions, 1, 2 and 3. So I'll be having like 3 portions right there. And after I went ahead to divide this into 3, you can see what all the marks I made right there. So I want this my zipper to be on the left side of my skirt, so I went ahead to extend the other part of the line I have, because I'm going to be cutting out through. So I'll place this normally so you can see everything I'm doing right here, okay? So this is it. I made the point right there. So if you want your zipper to be at the right side, you can go ahead as well to cut this out through the other side, but I want mine to be on the left. That is why I'm cutting this out on the left side of this my skirt. So just divide what you have on your waist by 3 and make points right there, and choose the part where you want your zipper to be fixed. So I'm going ahead now to cut out my lining piece, and I don't want my lining to be of the same length with my fabric. So all I did was to mark 1 inch above from my actual fabric, and I'm going to fold it in just as you can see right here. So by the time I cut this out, my lining is going to be shorter in length than my actual fabric. So I'm going to be explaining the reason later. This is because I always like my fabric inside. So after cutting it out exactly the way you placed it, for the front part, you're going to you're not going to fold your lining into 2, just place your lining on top and cut it out. So after I did all of this, I went ahead to turn this out and iron this out perfectly. So you can see even on the skirt length, you can see that the fabric actually came in. So that was the essence of me reducing my lining by 1 inches. Please don't be confused on everything I did right here. I actually placed the front part of my fabric on my lining piece, and I stitched all the sides, and I turned it up from my waist area. So I didn't close up that waist area because I'll be fixing a band to cover up the roughness on my waist Okay, so please don't be confused at all. So I'm going to take in my dart at this point, and I'm also going to do it for the front part, and you can see what I have right here. So guys, this is simply it. There is nothing more to this, and this is the other half of the part which I cut through up fixing my zipper. So after taking in my dart, I'm going to go ahead now to fix my zipper for this front part. So I was actually trying to check if the white zipper will be okay to be placed in front, or the black one, but I ended up using the white one. So watch properly to see my explanation right here. This part that has the actual zip, the head of the zip will be facing down, and the other part which opens up perfectly will be at the top part. So before you fix this, you're going to mark your zipper allowance, which is 1 inch, which I just marked right there, and you're going to place the right side of your zip or the right side of your fabric. And when you stitch this and you turn it, you will have this placed perfectly. So just watch what I'm doing. Honestly, you will understand everything I'm doing right here, or by the time you also do yours, you are going to understand better, because there is a difference between learning or watching and also practicing. Okay, so this is very clear enough. So I went ahead to do that. You can see what I have right here. I only made one straight stitch on my zipper, and you can see this is looking nice already. So I flip this to the front part right now, and I've also taken in my dart. Please don't forget. Okay, so for my zipper, it's actually open this way because I'm yet to fix my band, because the band will be closing that top part. Okay, so that's by the way. I was just trying to show you all what I've achieved so far. So at this part of my zipper, you can actually go ahead to use your hemming gum and hem that place perfectly so it doesn't pop out anytime you wear it. So right now I'm going to cut out the band for this my skirt piece I have right here. So I folded this my skirt piece into two, and I measure what I got right there. So I got this piece of fabric again, and I folded it into two. So I'm going to mark 2 inches. Reason is because 1/2 inch will be for the stitching down of this my band. So for the skirt, for the waist, what I got when I folded my skirt into two was 8.5 inches, right? So after marking these 2.5 inches and connecting it into a straight point, you can see me marking my 8.5 inches, and I'll simply go ahead to mark another 1/2 inch. So this 1/2 inch will be for the joining allowance, and then at the top parts right there, I'm going to mark another 1/2 inch, and I'm going to slightly connect it into my line or the length of this my band, just like this. So just go ahead and do this, and I'm going ahead now to cut this out exactly the way it is. So before that, I'm going to come to the top part. At that point right there, I marked 1/4 inch, and I'm going to just slightly connect this. Reason is because our waist is not straight. As a woman, your waist is not straight, so it's a bit slant or curve. Okay, so that's the essence of this. So that is just that, and you go ahead and cut every other thing the same way it is. So for the front skirt, we are going to have 2 pieces of this band. Then for the 2 back parts we are going to have 4 pieces. So we'll be having 4 pieces, 2 for each of the back part of our skirts. Okay, so just continue watching. You understand all the explanation I'm giving right here by the time I start fixing all of this band. So you're going to cut out everything the same, but you have to cut 2 of this band into 2, just the way I did right here. So if you do it for the 2, you will have 4 pieces all together, which is 7 for the back part. So I'm going to fix the band now for my front skirt. So all I'm going to do is to fold this my skirt into 2, and I will notch the center. So I also get my band, and I'm going to also notch the center of my band. So watch carefully. You can see that the part I am notching right here is the straight part and not that slanty or slanted part of my band. So that straight part is where I am going to notch the center, because the part where I came down by 1/4 inch, I slanted, is actually going to be facing up, because like I said, our waist is not straight, is a bit slanty. Okay, so I'm going to get the two center fronts I notched, and I'm going to actually pin this. So when I pin this, I'm going to use 1/2 inch and stitch, and by the time I stitch, this is how yours should be looking like. So here is for my back piece, and please watch carefully while placing this. Make sure that this slanted part is actually at the side of your skirt. So the straight part will be on the zipper area, the slanted part will be on the hip area. So when I fix my band to this, I'm going to fix my zipper. Just the front. When you fix your band like this, you now fix your zipper on top. So I've done this for the front and for the back, so you can see what I mean. I fixed my zipper, and this is what I have. So I'm going to join this front and the back part of my skirt together from the band all the way to the end of my skirt. So I've gone ahead to do this, and you can see what I have right here. So I'm going to open up this zip which I've already fixed to the back part of my skirt, and I'll go ahead now to fix the other band, which is going to serve as the lining that will be covering up the rough edges of this our band. So I went ahead first of all to fix for the front part of my zipper, that's for the band, and I'm going ahead to pin this. So while stitching, you are going to start from the joints which I have, and I'm going to stop exactly on the joint I have on the other side, just right there. So I'll just pin this, and I'm going to go on ahead to bring the other band. So like I said, please make sure that the slanted parts are always on the side or on the hip side of your skirts. So I'm going to get the other band, and I'm going to make sure I start stitching from the joints I have on the side of my skirt, and I'm going to open up my zipper this way. So I'll be showing you all how I fix this on my sewing machine, even after using my pins to hold this down, because I wouldn't want to confuse you all. So right here on my sewing machine, I'm going to show you all and take you through how I fix this. So you can see that I have my band from one part of the joints I have on my skirt, and from that point I'm going to stitch all the way and stop at the other side of my skirt where I have my joints. Okay, so immediately I stop at that joint, the joint I have on the side, you can see I stopped exactly right there. So I'm now going to get the other band, and I'm also going to start stitching from the joint I have at the side, you can see right there, all the way to my zipper. So you please watch the way I brought out my zipper this way, because I'm going to stitch the top part. So this type of joining will actually give you a neat finishing on your band, whereby you don't have to see the joints or the upper part of your zipper. Okay, so after that, I'm going ahead now to cut off these excesses on my zipper. So the next thing I'm going to do now is actually to join the side of this my band. So I'm going to join this particular side, you can see. So I brought it together this way. I believe that this is clear and understandable, and I'm going to join them. So when you join or fix your band like this, trust me, you'll be so happy, because you are going to have a perfect neat finishing. So after that, now I'll cut off that excesses at the side after joining this, making sure that I secured it properly. So I'll cut off that excesses right now. So by the time I'll fold this in, I'll have one of the neatest band you've ever seen. Okay, so that aside, now I'm going ahead now to work for the zipper part. So having done that, I'll come to the zipper, and I'm going to also cover this up this way, and I'm going to stitch directly on top of my zipper, leaving about 1/2 inch. So from there, you can say I left about 1/2 inch, because I'll be folding this in later on. So stitch this on top of your zipper. Okay, so when I must have done this, I'll turn this and cut off that excesses, and I'm going to turn this to the right side. So this is it. This is exactly what I mean, and all the explanation I'm trying to give right here. So I'm going to fold in every other excesses I have, and I'm going to just sew at the very tip of this my band. So watch carefully. I folded in 1/2 inch. You can measure this out and fold in, and I'm going to stitch exactly at the tip of my band. So you're going to stitch this and give this a very nice and decent ironing. So I didn't iron an interfacing to my band because by the time you must have used your same fabric as your lining piece and as your main fabric on the band, it is going to come out thick. So that is all for this tutorial, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and if you found this video helpful, of course you give me a great thumbs up, and also do try this out because I was super excited with the outcome. Thank you all so much for watching. See you next time on this same channel. Bye.